Good morning, everyone. We'll just give that a couple of seconds to let people join, and then we'll get going. Okay, I'll just give that 30 more seconds, and then we'll get started for today, because I know we do like to keep these nice and tight to time. Okay, let's get going, and hopefully people will keep joining, and they'll just miss my wonderful introduction. But firstly, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 20th webinar in this series, exploring how tax technology can help you. The housekeeping points, as always, before we get going today, we are recording. There will be an opportunity for questions, so please do add them into the Q&A at the bottom as we go through, and we'll pick those up at the end. We will have a follow-up session from today's topic to give you a chance to have a deeper dive for those that want to know a little bit more about the products and the solutions that we see today. All our previous sessions are on our YouTube channel, and of course, we will keep this to 30 minutes. So I'm Ian Bowden. I'm a tax partner, and I head BDO's tax automation and innovation practice. This series, we do try to bring insights into the hot topics, showcase different vendors, and today we do a bit of both. Really excited to be joined by Roy and Claire from ARK Solutions, and they're going to take us through their vision, their solution, give us some insights into the data challenge that they've seen and what their solution does to solve that. So really excited to have them both with us. But just before I hand over to the team, we do like to provide that kind of quick view on today's topic. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed the data point in the title. So I just wanted to touch on that. And Jordan, can we just pop onto the next slide quickly? Thank you. It's always about the data, really, isn't it? It's finding the data, getting access to the data, confirming that data reconciles, and then confirming it's actually the right data in the first place. And it's a bit ironic coming from an advisor here who offers outsourcing services, but the calculation part is slightly more straightforward, although that doesn't take into consideration the fact that the calculations differ in every country, but we'll gloss over that for the moment. The data point is the reason why businesses are considering the how. What's the right operating model for you and your business? And what I've just popped up on screen is the three main how categories. And appreciate there's always subcategories under each heading when you start getting into the nuances of managed services, etc. But broadly speaking, you can do it yourself. You can, of course, outsource it to me. And the category in the middle is that hybrid option. And for those that need that little extra assurance, and that's assurance with a little a, without the full cost of outsourcing, getting someone just to double check your homework and possibly help file, that's our kind of co-sourcing box. Now, all three are really good options, and it will depend on your specific circumstances to determine which is the right approach for you. I will say we've been doing this for a little while, and there has been a little bit more interest in the two boxes on the left-hand side. And I think the reason for that is back to my opening statement. It's all about the data. With a couple of hundred new data points to collect, there is work only you can do. Outsourcing everything still means you need to get me the right data. And usually the best people to get that data aren't an outsourcing firm. So your business will need to put in place a process to gather and validate. And whilst I can help initially with things like data readiness, impact assessments, ultimately you need to be happy that the process is right for you and that it's repeatable. And that's a really important point. So just before I close the operating model, for insourcing and co-sourcing to be an option, there needs to be really good calculators available. And I have to say that the market has responded brilliantly. The technology vendors have really put some effort behind this one. And BDO alone is an approved implementation partner for over 15 vendors that are out there who've all launched solutions. And we're really pleased to have one of the more advanced and complete solutions with us today in ARK Solutions, and they'll take us through what they offer. But I can say from an operating model perspective, very few organizations have been brave enough to build their own calculators. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I know we always try to solve things with Excel, and we always have. but the local nuances make buying the lower risk. I understand completely trying to get some help, and it is quite daunting, and that's where potentially co-sourcing can be a cheaper option, but you do need to think carefully about the how. And Jordan, if you just wouldn't mind, just for 30 seconds, just on the next slide, just to give you a quick snapshot of the market. Broadly, the offerings that are out there have fallen into the three categories, and we've touched on these before. At the very far left, a number of the consolidation systems or core accounting systems have created some solutions, and it's worth understanding if your platforms are able to help you. What can you do with your existing solutions? Because so much of the data and so much of the calculations are intrinsically linked to other areas, the middle category, where software vendors who produce compliance tools, provision tools, return engines, have all been able to produce some solutions, all at different scales and different price points and everything else. And then we've seen some great new international products that have come onto the market. And we've got, you can see ARK in both boxes there. They've got compliance solutions, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. But I thought it was just helpful framing this up. And as always with these sessions, we'd like to get into a little bit of detail to understand what the products look like and what they feel like. So without further ado, Claire, Roy, can I hand over to you to take us through what ARK does and how ARK can help your customers?
Thanks very much. If you guys want to stop sharing, I'll share my screen. Great. This is always the worst bit, making sure that we're up and running. Hope you guys. Great. Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. You'll be pleased to hear that my bit should only take about 3 or 4 minutes, because you're not here to see me, you're here to see the tool and to see Roy. So let's get you working. There we go. What I want to do now is I'm just going to take a couple of minutes of your time to talk you through some of the key advantages that we have here at ARK. I'm going to try and summarize it. There are lots more. I'm sure Roy will tell me off for missing some of the key ones. But just to cover that off for you, and then I'm going to give you a few takeaways before I hand over to Roy. So the platform that we're about to show you today is a true all-in-one Pillar 2 solution. So it eliminates the need for additional software or separate Excel tasks. Everything is handled in the platform, allowing full audit, transparency, completeness. It'll automate your CBCR. It supports your safe harbor assessments using Power BI, which you can see flicking through on the screen as we speak. And it will calculate your GIR. All QDMTT requirements are captured with our fine data mapping, which Roy's going to show you a little bit more about, which means that we can ensure quick implementation of local rules and delivery of the complete and final XML. And that will include filing your GIR where we're able to. So it's a fully global cloud-based collaboration platform. So it fosters that seamless global collaboration across your teams, regardless of where they are. Understanding the complexity of global tax reporting, we've been able to offer unlimited user access under one single license fee, ensuring everybody that can work together effectively across the globe, no matter where they are. We're fully flexible, so we automate everything for you. We understand that many businesses will prefer a mix of automation and manual input, so we do offer the ability to complement automation with custom Excel workbooks and direct manual entries, ensuring that you really do get that fully tailored approach, which is absolutely crucial for Pillar 2 because everybody's scenario is different. We're fully customizable, so you have complete control over how you structure your workflows, including things like governance, timelines, checkpoints, team roles, data visibility, so on and so forth. So you can tailor access by showing contributors only their jurisdictions and giving approvers comprehensive view of the entire process. It's totally down to you. The choice is yours. Our detailed data mapping will capture data at any level, so from GL accounts down to detailed operational figures, providing you with clear visibility and flexibility. The detailed breakdown of the data will ensure that we support both your Globi and your QDMTTs, which will minimise the need for remapping as the ever-evolving landscape that is Pillar 2 continues to shift and move. We will automate all of your QDMTTs. Every jurisdiction is covered. I probably don't need to say more on that one. We've got an AI-powered research tool built into the platform, which Roy will show you, but it gives you full access to the OECD guidelines. to allow you to quickly and effectively find everything that you need. And the embedded Power BI, which you can see now, will generate the clear visual analysis, which is directly connected to your data for meaningful and actionable insights. And then finally, we've got forecasting and modelling, which gives you the ability to model the Pillar 2 impact under various scenarios, whether expanding into new jurisdictions, managing acquisitions, or just assessing the future ETR thresholds. So, I recently gave a talk in Munich. I also enjoyed the Steins whilst I was there. And the talk was centered around how you can prepare and carry out a successful Pillar 2 implementation. We do have more details. This is very high level, but we have simplified it and broken it down into 5 steps. If you want more details, hop onto our LinkedIn. You'll be able to download it from there. But Roy's going to talk you through these 5 steps, excuse me, as he does the demo. Now, in case we don't get time to come back to this, because I know you're here to see the demo and there'll be questions, I just wanted to jump ahead and talk to you about how long that it actually takes. And it's an important subject at the moment because we're seeing that there are a lot of businesses that are pressing go and wanting something up and running by the end of this year. So we say that you need to take, we recommend that you leave yourself 6 months. I'd plan for 9. There are a lot of delays that can occur, both internally and externally. The biggest one of them is thinking that you have everything you need and then finding out that you don't, which was to Ian's point earlier. The quote is from Roy, who's going to give you the demo. I honestly asked him, Roy, honestly, what am I telling customers? And he said, Claire, you can have a baby quicker than you can implement Pillar 2. So it's probably just worth bearing in mind. So a couple of key considerations for you to take away. These are kind of the top 6 that we've got rattling around at the moment. So it's more than just reviewing the data catalogue. It's a great place to start. You'll be giving an input catalogue by us, by BDO, whichever way you choose to go. But there is more to it than just looking at that. A lot of customers have just started and then they've looked at that and then they're kicking off the project. What we recommend is that you map out where every relevant data point will come from. So yes, absolutely review the catalogue, which ones apply to you, and then work out where in your existing current finance and tax reporting packs they live today. This will give you the ability to start to uncover some of the gaps and start to raise those questions that you might have. It's not just about the what, it's about the how. So you know what you need to report in terms of the data point, but how are you going to report that number? We've seen a couple of examples where there's a lot of questions raised around the treatment of specific line items. We've got an FMCG customer that offers money off. So the question was around, is it a discount? Is it a rebate? Okay, and then is that a revenue reduction or is that an expense? And that's a conversation for you to have with your advisors. So lots of these small things will crop up, so make sure you're prepared. Consider the structure of your files. If you're using some sort of software platform to support you with the calculations, you want to be able to repeat that easily the following year, having done all the hard work in year 1. So just have consideration about those file structures and whether they're consistent, solid and replicable year after year. It's not just financial data, sounds obvious, but we're finding a lot of our customers haven't given enough consideration to the areas like entity information, group structures, etc., etc. So really just start to have a think about that, and also map out your cross allocations, movements and relationships within your group so that you've got that practical application done and ready to go. Final slide from me before I hand over. Picking the right partner for us is about ensuring that you have the flexibility to deal with your unique circumstances, and our customers choose us because they get to benefit from the unique custom built workflows that we're able to offer so that we can handle any scenario regardless of what your situation may look like. Anyway, enough from me. I'll leave you with this lovely quote. Again, a very genuine quote, and I think it sums it up nicely. But hopefully some of you today will see us as the right partner. So I shall leave you with that and I shall hand over to Roy.
Thank you, Claire. Let me get on with sharing my screen here. All right, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm jumping straight into the middle portion of the workflow here. So I'm going to walk you through a workflow whereby we're collecting information to populate some schedules and generate a report at the end that gives you a view of your ETR and your safe harbor position. But I wanted to start here from the middle point, if you like, because in a way, this is where I think in the first instance you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to a place whereby you have the core schedules of the Pillar 2 report populated. And by core schedules, I'm referring to your global income, your covered taxes, including the deferred tax adjustment, and the breakdown for the substance-based income exclusion, which needs to be there as well. And as Claire mentioned, there's an element of looking at the data catalogs and so forth, but one of the advantages of starting to work with a vendor like ours is that you get access to the system and you get to see how the data is laid out, and you can already sort of interact with it and see how things play out. And I'll drive, as I said, I'll walk through how this whole thing and how the data drives to the platform. But I wanted to sort of say, in terms of what you do, getting onboarded, you actually start from here. You start from getting familiar with what it is that you need to collect. And as Claire said, there's an element here of appreciating both the sources and the interactions of data within your organization and how it comes about. In terms of making this portion easy, in terms of understanding what's going on here, we've tagged the schedules both with various sort of snippets from the guideline. And we've also included this agent here that you can have a conversation with, ask it questions, and it pulls out the various portions from the administrative guidance or the model rules or the GIR guidance and points you at the source as well. It's not a replacement for an advisor naturally, but it does save hours in working through, 800, 1,000 pages worth of a guidance and so on. Yeah, it will give me the answer to my question and point me at the document from where this information has come about. Now, back to the beginning of this flow. Claire mentioned briefly, we actually build a custom workflow for you, on a per customer basis. And the element here, or the important element here, is that we adapt to the data sources that we wish to bring in and consume within this flow. In this example here, we bring, again, this is a simplified workflow for the purposes of the demo. So naturally, there's a lot more happening in a real life scenario. But nevertheless, we brought here two different types of sources for the purposes of trying to clarify the difference. So one is a TV that might come from your consolidation system. Its format is not specified by us. It depends on you. So we have a case here where it's one gigantic list from a SAP for HANA extract. All the accounts and entities are listed in sequence, and that's why it's 55,000 lines long. We will do the extraction out of that. And then next to it, we also have what we deemed as a client questionnaire, which, again, might be whatever you call it, where you might actually prepare another schedule of data points, be it you've asked your financial controllers for input, or this is because you've got some worksheets on the side where you manage some data and so on. We wanted to just give you the example of how we got low-level information, as in specific accounts, and then maybe some preset sort of answers and questions here as laid out. So this is a wide file. There's information here for each entity in a line, and many data points across each one. So accounts in a big list, data points across the line. And we take the information from any structure, so these two are included as well. In addition to the data, we also bring, or we manage within the platform, various parameters to control the flows, like thresholds and so on, mapping information, hierarchies, and so on. All of these things are brought in. Some of them we manage for you, some of them you manage by yourself for your own purposes. And the idea here is that in this journey here, in these steps up to point 3, where you saw the schedule is populated, the system will map and adjust, extract, and so on, the information assets required in order to get the schedules populated. We have various mapping mechanisms. Sometimes it's a straightforward one-to-one mapping. Sometimes we like to map across a hierarchy like so. So left-hand side, what you're seeing is a part of the P&L hierarchy. And I can map across data points using the hierarchy structure rather than each individual. It's useful sometimes if your structure lends to it. If not, it's a gigantic list of accounts versus data points in terms of where they need to go. I don't want to labor it too much, but just to say, we try and make it both accessible to you, so you're not dependent on us. It's like in the future, like accounts change, treatments change, you might add accounts to your chart and so on. You don't need to come back to the vendor for this. And similarly, there's visibility within the flow to appreciate what is happening here. Similarly, in the next sequence of steps, as I say, we extract the data, we use this mapping information and so on. The interim results are available to you. You can extract this to Excel and run a pivot table over it should you want to sort of lift the hood in a way and see what's happening underneath. And then everything trickles through into these schedules that we lay out for you so that you can go ahead and review the data. We also make this experience editable. So, and this, by the way, is very typical of the slightly, we call it the smaller groups, where they look at this and go, you know what, we've got 5% coming in from the P&L, and the other 20 fields I need to populate, I'm going to enter manually. And we pass no judgment. We make it possible. And when people edit within this experience, there's an audit log that captures the individual, that point in time, and any comments they may have added to the edit when they've put the numbers in. Similarly, there's a general sort of sharing of comments within the team. As I mentioned, there's no restriction on the number of users that we bring into the platform. There's no licensing tie-in. This is meant to be your cloud-based collaborative environment for this. And so comments around data input are quite useful in this regard. Not depicted here because there's not that much to see. The platform will generate XML output. We're currently working on the GR compliant to the OECD, and straight after that, the various jurisdictions, as Claire said, will be QDMTT compliant in all your jurisdictions as they pop up on the grid. And then the more interesting question, at least in the meantime, is the data as it comes through. So all the data in our flows get aggregated in a data library. The important bit here is that the library retains the links between your data and your workflows. So in terms of if there's ever an audit and there's a question why the number on the screen is X, you can go back to the workflow, see the sources, see the comments and so on of people that have contributed. There's no restriction in terms of what visualizations we stick on top. This is embedded Power BI. We also give you the keys. The data modeling is done by us, but any additional visualizations, you have the freedom to add as many as you like. Again, in terms of the license, it's all included. And these are some very pretty visualizations that someone in my team has done. I'm very proud of their work. So again, here it's just the starting point of the data collection. It's surfacing the safe harbor position, giving you a high overview of your the ETR and top up. And if you want to see some crude numbers, of course, it's always easy to pass these out as well. I think that's it in terms of tech. I want to leave a few minutes for questions, naturally, for all three of us. Just to come back to maybe the prior slide that Claire had there in terms of what it is that we think you want to deal with here in terms of process. So one is get familiar with what is being asked in terms of the data points, the input schedules, and so on. And then part number two is, okay, what do you do in order to get there? Like what sources are available to you? What can you get from your systems and what will you need to complement manually? There's a lot of bookings against accounts which don't have the right definition across them. There might be some intra-group movements that are not capturing the counterparty, which might be required in some places in the report and so on. So there's a lot more detail that goes into the GIR that's not in your financial statements today. And then both Ian and Claire touched on that. There's an element of making sure that whatever it is that you come up with, be it, using us as a vendor or whatever other solution, you got to think about the fact that you want to run this every year. You might want to run this more than once a year to know your tax position. And to make it even more interesting under circumstances, you're going to have to run past years again. So there's a lot of rerunning of this thing. And you want to get comfortable and make sure that you have a process with good governance over it and good traceability and all the other things that need to be there time and time again. That's
perfect. Thank you, Roy. Then, Claire, that was really helpful. I appreciate it. It's a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of the product. I think just we've got a couple of questions I want to get to in a second. Just before we jump into those, in terms of can you just give me a little bit in terms of the there's more to ARK than just pillar 2, Roy, and I know we've focused a little bit on that. I think what we're seeing in the market is organizations looking for systems that can do more than one thing. Can you just give us a tiny bit on the overall platform and what it's able to offer?
Oh, sure. So effectively, this is a tax automation platform. Wherever you've got a process whereby you need to collect some input from, say, IRP consolidation and do something on the other end, we do it. That means that we do things for transfer pricing, we do things around provisioning, we do indirect tax, of course, we do here in the UK capital allowances and PWDs. And we also have other sort of compliance that are related to sort of tax like FATCA and CSOP and so on, all driven through the platform. So we deal with both things that have low volume and highly specialized sort of calculations, say VAT and the partial exemptions, or we have large volume and simple like CSOP, where it's millions of rows that just need to be reported, and then anything in between. If I may expand, I think one of the advantages we offer the slightly larger organizations is the fact that we deal with multiple sources at different levels at the same time. It's not like you need to prepare a template. We will match against various ERP systems, other operational systems you might have hanging around, and then whatever it is that you may or may not have already prepared in your consolidation levels, we integrate everything together, and we're able to derive new data points, provide you with ratios or reconciliations across the group, and effectively whatever it is that you feel like you need to do in Excel on the side, we can do it in a platform for you.
I think that's helpful to understand. I think a lot of groups are looking at a solution that can do more than one thing. But we've got a couple of questions. Can I just throw them at you quickly, and we'll have a quick question and answer session, and then I've got one more before we close, conscious of time here. We've got a question in terms of regarding GIR. How many countries can ARK tool file in, please?
Wherever you are, we'll support you with the filing. In terms of direct submission to regulators, we're only progressing right now with the HMRC because they're slightly ahead of the curve. But in terms of everybody else, we will provide you with the pack required to upload to your tax authorities.
Perfect. Is there a compliance calendar with due dates built into the ARK tool?
No, actually, there is slightly different. There's both a feed from a BDO that we supply our customers with a big table, and there is the option to create your own compliance calendar within the tool. So I just provision that very carefully in the sense that the responsibility for your setup is still with you or your advisor. But yes, once you're in there within the tool, you get to see all your due tasks and the due dates across different things, both be it pillar 2 or other sort of reg requirements you may have.
And I've got a question here. What is the information source for the local country compliance requirements rules? Not quite sure I understand the question, but Roy, I don't know
Yeah,
whether you've...
similarly, I'd say, well, the requirements themselves are driven by the local tax authorities and local legislation. Of course, they have to adhere to the OECD guidelines in order to be qualified. And I say qualified domestic top-up and so on. They don't have to, of course, but they want to. In terms of the actual source of data in order to be compliant in your report, it depends slightly on circumstance. But in many cases, it's going to be your local financial systems because your local tax authority wants it in your local accounting standard and local currency to match this against your CT and so on. So it could be both that you do your global report and your locals from the same source, like consolidation level, or that you're actually merging different sources, because for the locals.
Yeah, and I think when we look at something like QDMTT, we're already seeing that some countries are saying that the data where you've done the Globe return has been in consolidated format. It needs to be a local gap for so where you've had your Globies at group gap, it's at local gap for the QDMTT. So we are seeing differences, and obviously what Roy's saying is that the platform can handle those nuances, so they deliver for the Globe, and then they are configurable QDMTT ready. So hopefully you saw Roy was able to take data from multiple places. You will need to grab additional data, which is back to my original point of try not to do this yourself. There's a hell of a lot of work gone into this. Conscious of time, and we are coming up to our 30 minutes. It has gone very, very quickly. really, really appreciate Roy and Claire jumping on and giving us a bit of an insight into what their platform can offer. You will get a chance to have more time with Claire and Roy if that would be helpful. The tool, I think, is very, very good. It handles the data stuff very well, and we're excited to see where that is going. So if you are interested, then please do let us know. A final point from me, there's a couple of other things going on today. Apparently, our Chancellor is making an announcement, which is obviously what you expect when you join one of my webinars. So the spring forecast information is coming through. So we are not expecting anything huge from a tax perspective, but you never know. Please check out bdo.co.uk, and we'll be sending out notifications on the other webinars and announcements throughout the day as we get a better understanding for what Rachel has given us this afternoon. So with that, just like to thank you all very much for joining. We will be back in a month's time with another vendor and another hot topic. And thanks again for Claire and Roy for joining us this morning. And everyone, enjoy the Rachel Reeves announcements. I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.